So
Yeah.
why don't you give me a quick run through? You obviously you were like the one who was teaching everyone about all these terms, Overton window, for example, stuff like no one would have been speaking about in like the cultural lexicon had it not been for your like Vox series, right?
Oh, thanks. I mean, I always felt like I was I have like wicked imposter syndrome because I just feel like I take things that smarter people have thought of and then just like apply them to current events and say, isn't that smart? And everyone's like, oh yeah, but like obviously I did not come up with the idea of the Overton window.
That's all of us though.
Yeah, true. We're all just like impersonating old dead people who are much smarter than us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was making videos there, and the crowd stuff started happening at like the end of like my second month working there, like the harassment videos. And I just like dealt with it for a while, and then like 2 years went by, and then I moved to New York, and I was like shopping for a lamp with my mom, and I got a phone call from a random number that asked me like basically why I hated freedom or something, and I just like hung up the phone. And then I got like a ton of text messages from different people or different numbers telling me to debate Steven Crowder. So that's when the first time I realized like, oh fuck, my number is out there.
Mm-hmm.
And then freaked out, like told Vox, but nothing really happened because nothing came of it. And then a couple months later, he was like making more videos about me, and I'd never really responded to him publicly, like never in a video. I'd like tweeted jokes about like, I wish men would pine after me the way that Steven Crowder does, but like nothing that serious. And then this past May, I was like literally on this couch behind me eating Halo Top, and he had made another video about me, and I was like, I'm just so fucking frustrated, and like I need to know if this is real or not. So I made a compilation video about it and then published it. I didn't tell anybody at Vox what was happening.
Did you not think to do that just out of like fear that they might get?
No, I had like no idea it would get as big as it was. My goal was like to have one of my friends who happens to be a tech reporter like ask YouTube what's going on. I did not think it would create like a public spat. And then once it got really big, obviously like I was doing my own communication stuff around it. Like I was the one talking to reporters, and like it was obviously a story about me, not about Vox. But Vox was getting it too and getting like blowback from it. And then there was like a couple. I like pitched and wrote and made a video talking about YouTube and like what had happened to me. And then it got spiked, and there was like some back and forth between me and my editors about like what we should say about YouTube, given that like Vox had sold the show to YouTube and like had a big business relationship with YouTube. And we just went back and forth, and I never got to publish anything. And eventually they pulled me aside and were like, look, we think that the work you do is important, but we just don't have the resources to give you the editorial support you need. So you should like find, like strike through is done, you should find somewhere else to go. So I spent like a couple months flailing. They were very nice in that they like gave me time to find out what, they didn't just like fire me. They said like, you should find out what else you want to do.
Okay.
And we will like, you can like stay here, like unofficially be at Vox while you're here, but like go find something else to do. So I spent a while like pitching a strike through like show to other places, and it wasn't really like getting picked up, or I realized that if it did get picked up, I would be like starting from scratch. Because the outlets like didn't have a YouTube presence, or like didn't really have a video team. So after a while, I was just like, I'm gonna be starting from scratch no matter what, and I would rather own what I was making or own what I'm making and like be able to say whatever the fuck I want and like make shit that is weird and experimental and is not just the same thing I've always done. And I don't want to have to like argue with editors ever again and like have to convince someone of my vision or have to worry about like shit that I get becoming a conversation with my bosses again. I just like craved autonomy. And so I like took a bunch of editing classes online and had my former producer at Vox, like teach me how to run a camera and teach me how to light and all that shit.
Oh wait, you weren't on the production side of all the videos in Strike Through?
No, I was writing and doing the clip gathering. And then near the end of my time there, I was doing like the basic timeline edit. So like putting everything in order, finding music and putting the clips where I wanted them to be, because it's just easier for me to learn how to do it instead of being like, this clip needs to be a second shorter and it needs to be longer here. So I did that stuff, but like all of the graphics and animation stuff, and then like certainly the lighting and the camera stuff, had a producer who was helping me with all that stuff. So I had to just like learn how to do it from scratch. And so it took me like a month of Premiere classes and learning how to run a camera and learning how to upload footage and like how to organize files, like all that shit I had to do on my own. And now it's great because like if I didn't lose my job back then, I certainly would have lost it now. Like, no one can go to the studio, there's no studio space, I have no editor that can work with. So it's almost like I prepped myself for the end of the world by learning all that shit. But no, I was like, I had an editor who was like helping me script edit, and a producer who was helping me like, I would say like, I needed there to be a graph here, I need the graph to move, and it would happen.
Yeah.
And now it's like, I have to learn how the fuck do you make a graph move and do it myself. And it's like, it's good to have new skills, but it's kind of like sink or swim, like figure out how to do it on your own, or become beholden to another video team that will have thoughts about what you're trying to say. And I just didn't want to have to like answer to anyone anymore. So I'm to be able to make whatever stuff I thought was cool or weird or experimental.
That's so impressive, because like when I saw your first, I will get into the breadtube stuff, but when I saw your first breadtube video, I immediately was like, yeah, this is obviously the same guy who was making those strike through videos, like the editing, the timing, the music. Wow.
It's all me and by myself at this desk just editing all that shit. I had that guy like teach me the basics, and I took the same Premiere classes that he used, but it's all me alone in this living room behind me now, which is cool because like I get to experiment a lot and try weird shit that I think I would have been too shy to tell someone like, oh, I'm gonna smear blood on my face for this shot. But it's dread inducing in that like before I hit publish, nobody has seen what I've been working on for 3 weeks. And so I'm like, I hope this is good, because I have no alternate feedback to tell me this is good or not. And that's like a very stress inducing feeling, just be like in a creative bubble and then have to like show your ass to the world and say, is this a good ass? And hopefully they say it is a good ass.
Oh, it's a fantastic ass.
Thank you so much for saying that.
Were you in the middle of the whole unionization of Vox too? Did that play into this?
Yeah, dude. I mean, it didn't play into this, but like when I was getting really badly, when I was like, my face was on Fox News, we had walked out. So like we were not supposed to be, I was like trying to ask Vox for like security help. Like I was staying in a hotel and like my address was getting published and stuff. So I was like freaking out. And also I was getting emails sent to me and my bosses of like fake gay porn that people were claiming was me. So I was like supposed to be on a walkout, and I was watching emails come into my boss. It was like, here's Carlos getting fucked by his husband. And I was like, A, I don't have a husband. B, I don't look like that. Like really crazy shit. But like, you're not supposed to be engaging at all. So thankfully the union was lenient, and they were like, you can do security stuff. Like we understand. But yeah, I was like not working when that was happening, because we were doing a walkout, and that was like obviously separate from me. And everyone in the union was like super cool and had my back. And like, thank God, I think the union was in place, because it made it very difficult for Vox to just be like, you're gone. I don't think Vox would have, but there was this sense of, while that was going on, of like, thank fucking God that there's some protections, because if Vox wanted to right now, they could just like vaporize me and say, you're done, goodbye, forever. And the union created all these protections that are like, you need to have just cause, and you need to have like a good reason why you were let go. It needs to be like a review process. And so while I was going through it, I was like, fuck yeah, we need unions. Like we need worker protections and all that stuff. But it was a very weird time. My big thing was like, I did not want to draw focus away from the public pressure the union was putting on Vox to recognize the union. And so I'm like, I don't want my thing to become a PR distraction from like what the union was doing. But thankfully, the union got recognized and formalized, and we had a contract by the end of it. We'd already been recognized, but we were trying to negotiate a contract. And yeah, so I was really glad that happened. And I love everyone who did the union organizing work there. I'm one of the people who like at the beginning of my professional career was in a union fight and was like aggressively anti-union and was like super dickish about it and like fought tooth and nail, and like had to learn through going through it that like I was being a fucking idiot and an asshole, and came around. So I was just very grateful for the union there, and I have nothing but love for those people. Like I think at the end of the world, and I feel like this is the end of the world, the few things that make us like feel good as humans is working collectively and like just fighting for fucking small crumbs and scraps. And that union fight and like being a part of it, even just like as an outsider watching people fight on my behalf, gave me such like I don't know, there's just like a kind of spark of life that comes with being like, we fucking fought for a thing and we won. Like what a good thing that we can like change the world even a tiny bit by working together and giving a shit about each other. And so it was like a nice a small light during a very dark summer. A
little crumb of solidarity.
Yeah, a little just like
as a
fucking
treat.
I'm real and you're real, and we gave a shit together and something happened because of it. Like that's hard to overstate the value of that feeling.
No, I totally agree with you. What were some of the ideas that you may have proposed to Vox that they didn't go along with, or if you're allowed to talk about that?
Yeah, it wasn't like ideas thing. It's just I was trying to make the argument that I was making publicly, which is like YouTube exploits queer people and like marginalized people more broadly, and that it's like a callous company that is willingly accepts abuse as a part of its product because it helps their bottom line. Which I don't think it's a controversial argument, and I don't think is one that like requires that much evidence. Anyone who's like done any reporting on YouTube knows that these people are like fucking ghouls, and
Yeah.
that they use, especially queer people, as like fucking PR props. And so to me, I mean, it was the argument I was making publicly to like reporters and like on my Twitter page. So there was no like, I don't think there was any mystery about how I felt about it. And I felt like I was making a pretty airtight case in lieu of everything that was going on. But I mean, I have like my own goggles about what happened. My view of what happened is I was making it very difficult for Vox to have a business partnership with YouTube. And they had just sold or were trying to sell a show to YouTube for a lot of money. And so my argument was interfering with Vox's business interest. Vox's argument was that the point that I was making about YouTube was too editorial and too aggressive and did not have
Objectivity.
did not have enough support, like evidentiary support, that I was being a grenade thrower, basically. Which I don't think I was, but we were disagreeing about it. And then there's a disagreement about if I was allowed to disagree. Like I was getting edits that I just said, I don't agree with this, and I'm not saying it if I don't believe it. Like everything I'd done up to that point at Strike-Through was, here's my argument, here's my best case for thinking it. And I never once took an assignment from anybody. I was always like, every idea was generated by me. And so I thought that I had room. I always thought of myself as more of like an op-ed person, like an opinion writer who was making video, and like the video sank or swam on the strength of my argument. And Vox's view was that you are taking an assignment from us, and if we want you to say this thing and not this other thing, you don't really get to like fight us on that. And so it was just like a disagreement about, I said, look, I'm never going to say the thing that you want me to say just because you want me to say it. I need to be convinced of it. It's my face. It's my opinion. If it's dumb or I don't agree with it, like I burn, not you. So I was like, I need the right to say no to edits. And I said, if this means we don't publish, like if we don't publish something in here about YouTube, I'm fine with that. Because like I felt like at that point I had made my argument well enough publicly that I didn't need a Vox video about it. Like everyone knew how I felt, and I thought my argument was airtight. But I said, regardless of how we feel about this video, I need to be able to say like, fuck no, I'm not doing this edit if I don't agree with it. And that was just one of contention. And so eventually they decided that it was like too much. The resources it would need to like help me do my job well was like a really good editor and people who would like butt heads with me and like work through pitches with me. And that's not what Vox wanted to invest in. And it is more resources than they had given to other video producers. Like people who don't make argument videos on Vox don't need to like sit down and fight about a thesis for 3 days like I do. I need to like fucking fight to be sure that my argument is right or not. And so I was just asking for more resources than other video producers were getting, and they decided that it like wasn't a good fit, which sucks, but like I get it. And I have like no bad blood towards Vox. They did not have to give me 7 weeks of paid time, or sorry, 7 months of paid time to like figure out what the fuck my next move was going to be. They were like so cool about that, and I could have really flailed and I didn't have to flail. So that was really nice of them. And they gave me like just like a lot of like emotional editorial support while I was figuring out what I wanted to do next. And everyone there has been super supportive of the indie channel and stuff like that. So I have no bad blood. It's just I'm a tough person to hire, and a tough person to like monitor when I'm making stuff, and I require a lot of resources. And so even just like in terms of time, so I get where they're coming from, and I love the people. I love the people there. It's a great company. What they're trying to do is not what I'm trying to do, but like when I got that job at Vox, I was like over the moon because like I fucking love the project they're engaged in. Like explanatory journalism to me is like such an important thing. And I have lots of qualms about their coverage, and I'm sure they have lots of qualms about what I do now, but they're like all fucking good people. And the like typical joke about them being like neoliberal shills like is funny and like easy to make on the internet, but like they care deeply about the world. And the fact that they have like a different method about trying to make a better world does not undercut the fact that they fucking give a shit and like really try. And they could have been really shitty to me during that YouTube thing, and they weren't. I lost my job, but like they could have told me to fuck off and die, or just been like, you've pissed us off. We have nothing to do with you. And they really like, if you're gonna lose your job, everyone should hope to lose their job as humanely as I did, which is like a weird thing to say, but it could have been way crueler. And I think they were nicer to me because they do care about me as a person and like want me to do well, even if it can't be there. And they didn't have to feel that way. They could have just been like, you're a liability, fuck off. And I'm glad they did it.
What about YouTube? What did they do in terms of reaching out to you? Did they actually?
Dude, fuck YouTube.
I agree. You're talking to someone who got his whole YouTube channel deleted and then brought back to life.
Yeah, I had an off-the-record meeting with them, which I don't care about being off the record now because obviously, like, there's no cost to me. They're never going to talk to me again. But while that was all going on, they had a meeting with like me, the editor-in-chief, and the head of video. There was like their comms person and literally a gay guy that they just brought into the room so they could be like, we have a gay guy here.
Oh, no way.
And
yeah, token.
They're like, he's the comms person too. And I was like, why are you here? Like, you're just, okay. And it was just like pure damage control. Like the argument I was making about YouTube was very tight. And looking back at it, I'm like very proud of the argument that I made because there's no person in good faith could think that how YouTube handled that was like, not a fucking disaster.
Yeah.
So I went in being like, I'm not here to argue about my argument. Like, are you doing something or not? And at that point, they already decided they weren't going to do shit about Crowder. And they basically were just like, we just want you to know that we really care about you. And when we reference examples of good work on YouTube in terms of journalism, we like use you all the time. And I basically said, don't fucking use me as an example anymore. I hate this company and I don't want to be here. I'm stuck here, but like, I don't use me in your promotional materials. And their argument was just like, it's complicated. I can't believe I have to like thinking about this like gets me heated again. And it's been a while since like I got heated about it. But their argument is essentially like, if we start trying to restrict hate speech on YouTube, like we'll have to start taking down Stephen Colbert clips and like Samantha Bee clips, which is like the how do you
slippery slope fallacy? Like,
the slippery slope thing. And it's like I said to the gay guy who was in there, I was like, you're gay, right? You know the difference between you understand the difference between someone saying, oh yeah, we're queer people, and someone on the street screaming, you're queer, right? You know that even though it's the same word, like those things are fucking different.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay, then what are we talking about right now? Like, this isn't as complicated as you want it to be. And the truth is that like, YouTube is not as stupid as they want people to think. Like they recognize that it's actually kind of easy to distinguish between a comedian and Steven Crowder.
Yeah.
Fox News was able to recognize it, and that's why they fired that fucking guy. But like YouTube wants to make it think that it's clumsy or like a gray area. And I always say this, like, regulating speech is messy and there are gray areas, and like there are some calls that are genuinely very difficult to make. That is true. And I actually, before all this happened, made videos about Twitter and YouTube where I was like, yo, they have these problems, and actually it's very difficult to come up with like perfect solutions because it's hard to know what someone's intent, and you're monitoring like a huge amount of content. Like,
especially at that scale, right? When you got, billions of users. Yeah.
And like, I would never expect YouTube to have some algorithm that the minute you upload can determine if you have hate speech or not, or like that attempts to even do that. Like, I think that's a waste of time and also kind of silly, and that like algorithmic solutions like that usually end up being a disaster anyway, because computers are also dumb and don't know the difference. But what you had here was like a fucking big YouTuber saying clearly hateful shit over the period of 2 years. Like, the fact that there are gray areas does not mean that every area is gray. And that to me was very black and white. And so I was like, I get this shit about comedians, but you're not dumb. And there's nothing that I can really say to get you to admit that you're pretending this is more complicated than it is. So I was like, we don't have to talk. We don't have to come to an agreement. Like, you're not going to convince me. I'm not going to convince you. I'm going to keep doing my thing. You're going to keep doing your thing. And then that was how the call ended. They're like, well, we hope that we can talk more. And I was like, we're probably not going to talk more. And then after that, Susan, the head of YouTube, did an interview with Recode, which is a member of Vox Media, where they talked about me. And so I reached out to YouTube and was like, yo, I have a show on Vox with one of you on YouTube. Would you like to come talk to me about the thing that happened to me? And they're like, no, but if you want to talk like off the record with us, the comms people, we'll have to do it. And I was like, fuck that. So yeah, I didn't talk to them after that. And after I announced that I was going indie, someone from like their gaming section reached out and was like, hey, glad you're making a channel. And I was like, cool. And I haven't really talked to them since, but my feeling is like, I'm probably safe from getting shut down because YouTube knows it'd be like a fucking PR disaster, which is all I really care about. I don't want YouTube to shut me down, but I don't run ads on my videos, or I don't monetize my videos because I don't want to be participating in YouTube's like ad revenue generating program. And I have no love for them. And anytime I talk to a reporter, I tell them like it's a fucking evil platform. In my first video, I was like, I fucking hate this place. But yeah, we're just like we're not buds. I don't have any interest in carrying water for them. I think they're just as bad as they always were. And I think every criticism I've made of corporate media applies like in triplicate to YouTube, which is like, if Fox News truly had no fucking editors and was just like, publish everything, that's what YouTube right would be. So yeah, fuck that company. I'm glad to use them however I can to like make the arguments that I want to make. But truly, if there was any viable alternative that offered me the same ability to get an audience, I would use it, because like YouTube does not deserve any of our content. Like doesn't deserve any good shit that we make. And every time I make something really good, I'm like, fucking YouTube gets to have this thing. I'm so pissed. Like, why do they get to have this shit? So it's like I feel trapped. There's no ethical production under YouTube.
Hey you, yes, you. Do you like cozy environments with other wholesome people? Well then come join the Discord. It's got a whole bunch of stuff to help you with creative endeavors, such as stock footage, royalty-free music, and an amazing community of people looking to help each other out and uplift your content. Join the Discord now by going to weareserfs.com. That's weareserfs.com.
We would like to thank Miranda Marone. You are our monarch, and we thank you for our indentured servitude. We would like to thank our lords, Ricky Pilgrim, I'm Raft, Michaela Schmid, Tomospin, Ferrer Tajon. You are all the pillars of our organization. To our Knights of the Square Table, Paul Parafit, Daniel Kahn, Clement Chutskoff, Alan R., Josh Mickelson, and Dr. Zayas, Cooper Pilot, Andrea Lynn Epperly, Dylan Bythe, Terry, Todd Buckingham, and Todd Lajeunesse. And to our merchants, thank you for taking mercy upon us.